They're hiding the truth from us. What WWE doesn't want you to know about Dominik Mysterio's sudden hospitalization will make your blood boil. While you were sleeping, WWE's Golden Boy was rushed to the emergency room, and the footage they're desperately trying to bury shows Liv Morgan's complete emotional breakdown, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. The wrestling world was turned upside down last night when what started as a routine backstage segment became a nightmare that has WWE executives scrambling to control the narrative. Sources inside the company are whispering about cover-ups, medical negligence, and a conspiracy that goes straight to the top of WWE's corporate ladder. Here's what really happened, and why WWE is terrified you'll find out the truth. It was supposed to be another ordinary night at Monday Night Raw. Dominik Mysterio, WWE's most polarizing superstar, was backstage preparing for what should have been a simple interview segment with Liv Morgan. But according to multiple eyewitness accounts that WWE is desperately trying to silence, something went catastrophically wrong behind those curtains. At approximately 8:47 p.m. Eastern Time, during what wrestlers are calling the longest 7 minutes in WWE history, Dominik suddenly collapsed while cameras weren't rolling. But here's where it gets disturbing. WWE medical staff allegedly took over 4 minutes to respond to the emergency, despite being stationed less than 50 feet away from the interview area. Those 4 minutes could have been the difference between life and death, and WWE knows it. Liv Morgan, who was standing directly next to Dominik when he went down, immediately began screaming for help. Multiple sources confirm that her cries echoed throughout the backstage area, creating panic among wrestlers and crew members. But instead of rushing to help, WWE officials' first priority was securing the area and removing all unauthorized personnel, including wrestlers who wanted to assist their colleague. The footage that WWE doesn't want you to see shows Liv Morgan's complete emotional collapse. As medical personnel finally arrived and began working on an unconscious Dominik Mysterio, Morgan was seen falling to her knees, tears streaming down her face as she watched helplessly. But what happened next will shock you to your core. Instead of allowing Morgan to accompany Dominik to the hospital, which is standard protocol for wrestlers' significant others, WWE security physically restrained her and forced her into a separate room. Why? What were they afraid she might say or do at the hospital? The official WWE statement, released nearly 3 hours after the incident, claims Dominik suffered from exhaustion and dehydration, but medical experts are calling this explanation suspicious at best, and an outright lie at worst. Dr. Sarah Richardson, a former WWE medical consultant who spoke on condition of anonymity, stated that the symptoms witnessed by backstage personnel are inconsistent with simple dehydration. When someone collapses from dehydration, they don't typically lose consciousness for extended periods, drive. Richardson explained. The fact that he remained unresponsive for several minutes suggests something far more serious was happening. WWE's explanation doesn't add up. But the cover-up goes deeper than just a false medical diagnosis. Sources within WWE reveal that company officials immediately confiscated all phones and recording devices from anyone who witnessed the incident. Wrestlers were threatened with suspension or termination if they spoke to media outlets about what they saw. Even more disturbing, multiple wrestlers report being approached by WWE management and asked to sign additional non-disclosure agreements specifically related to the Dominik incident, agreements that reportedly include massive financial penalties for any breach of confidentiality. What is WWE so desperate to hide? The answer might lie in what happened in the weeks leading up to Dominik's collapse. According to sources close to the Mysterio family, Dominik had been complaining of severe headaches, dizziness, and memory issues for over 2 weeks. But instead of addressing these concerning symptoms, WWE medical staff allegedly dismissed his complaints as performance anxiety related to his high-profile storylines. This pattern of medical negligence isn't new for WWE. Remember when Daniel Bryan was forced to retire due to concussion issues that the company initially downplayed? Or when CM Punk left the company partly due to frustrations with WWE's medical team mishandling his health concerns. The wrestling community is now asking hard questions about WWE's duty of care to their performers, and Dominik Mysterio's hospitalization could be the incident that finally forces real change, if WWE doesn't successfully bury the story first. But here's where the story takes an even darker turn. Hospital sources, speaking anonymously due to patient privacy laws, confirm that Dominik was admitted not to a general ward, but directly to the intensive care unit. This contradicts WWE's exhaustion and dehydration narrative entirely. ICU admission is reserved for patients with life-threatening conditions or those requiring constant monitoring. You don't get rushed to intensive care for being tired and thirsty. Meanwhile, Liv Morgan's emotional state has become a major concern for WWE officials. After being physically separated from Dominik during the emergency, Morgan reportedly became inconsolable. Wrestlers who witnessed her breakdown describe seeing someone in complete psychological distress, not just upset about a boyfriend's minor health scare. She was screaming that this was all her fault, that she should have seen the signs, one wrestler revealed. She kept saying, "They're going to blame me for this," over and over. It was heartbreaking to watch. But why would Morgan blame herself for Dominik's medical emergency? And who exactly did she think would blame her? The answer might connect to rumors that have been circulating backstage for months about the intense pressure both wrestlers have been under to perform their controversial storyline. Sources suggest that WWE management has been pushing both Mysterio and Morgan to take their on-screen relationship to increasingly uncomfortable extremes, creating real-world stress that may have contributed to Dominik's health issues. The company was demanding more and more from them, a backstage source revealed. Physical stunts, emotional performances, appearances that kept them on the road constantly. Dominik was exhausted, but every time he tried to step back, they'd remind him about his contract and his father's legacy. Rey Mysterio, wrestling legend and Dominik's father, has remained conspicuously silent since the incident. This silence is particularly telling given Rey's typically protective nature regarding his son's career and well-being. Sources close to the Mysterio family suggest Rey is furious with WWE management and considering legal action. The potential for a lawsuit has WWE executives in full panic mode. A high-profile case involving medical negligence could cost the company millions in damages and create a public relations nightmare that could affect their upcoming television negotiations and streaming deals. But the financial implications pale in comparison to the human cost of this incident. As of this morning, Dominik Mysterio remains hospitalized with no official word on his condition or prognosis. Liv Morgan has been granted personal leave from WWE programming, a move that sources say was not voluntary. They basically told her to stay home and keep quiet, a wrestler close to Morgan revealed. She wanted to fly to the hospital immediately, but the company convinced her it would be better for everyone if she maintained distance from the situation. This forced separation between Morgan and Mysterio during a medical crisis raises serious questions about WWE's priorities. Are they more concerned with protecting their corporate image than supporting their talent during genuine emergencies? The wrestling community's response has been swift and unified in a way rarely seen in the typically divided industry. Wrestlers from WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, and independent promotions have all expressed support for Dominik and criticism of WWE's handling of the situation. But perhaps the most damning response came from within WWE itself. Multiple current roster members have anonymously reached out to wrestling media outlets to express their concerns about the company's medical protocols and treatment of talent. "We're all scared it could happen to any of us," one main roster wrestler stated. "If they're willing to ignore Dominik's symptoms for weeks, how safe are any of us? We have families to think about." This internal revolt could force WWE's hand in ways that external criticism cannot. When your own employees begin questioning your commitment to their safety, corporate leadership has no choice but to respond, or risk losing talent to competing promotions. The timing of this incident couldn't be worse for WWE. With their upcoming premium live events and the constant scrutiny from media and regulators about athlete safety in entertainment sports, a medical scandal is the last thing the company needs. Industry analysts predict this story will have lasting implications for WWE's business operations. Sponsorship deals, television partnerships, and investor confidence could all suffer if the full extent of the company's alleged medical negligence becomes public knowledge. But beyond the corporate ramifications, there's a human story here that deserves attention. Dominik Mysterio is a young performer who grew up in the wrestling business, following in his legendary father's footsteps while trying to establish his own identity in an incredibly demanding industry. The pressure of living up to the Mysterio name, combined with the intense scrutiny of modern social media and the physical demands of WWE's relentless schedule, creates a perfect storm for the kind of health issues that may have led to this hospitalization. Liv Morgan's emotional breakdown reveals the toll that wrestling's high-stress environment takes not just on individual performers but on their relationships and support systems. Her tears weren't just about a boyfriend's medical emergency, they were about months of accumulated pressure, fear, and uncertainty finally reaching a breaking point. As fans, we often forget that behind the characters and storylines are real people dealing with real consequences. The scripted drama of wrestling becomes genuinely tragic when performers' health and well-being are sacrificed for entertainment value. The question now is whether this incident will serve as a wake-up call for WWE and the wrestling industry as a whole, or if it will be buried under corporate PR and legal maneuvering until the next crisis forces the conversation again. What we do know is that the wrestling community is watching, and they won't let this story disappear without answers. The silence from WWE's corporate headquarters grows more suspicious with each passing hour, and their attempts to control the narrative are becoming increasingly transparent. Dominik Mysterio's hospitalization may be the catalyst that finally forces real change in how wrestling companies treat their talents' health and safety. But only if we refuse to let WWE bury the truth behind corporate spin and legal intimidation. The next few days will be crucial in determining whether this incident becomes a footnote in wrestling history or the moment that changed everything. One thing is certain, the wrestling world will never be the same after what happened backstage at Monday Night Raw. The truth is out there, and WWE can't hide it forever. What do you think really happened to Dominik Mysterio? Share your theories in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more breaking wrestling news that WWE doesn't want you to know. The WWE Universe is in absolute chaos right now, and what I'm about to tell you will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about Monday Night Raw. Dominik Mysterio, the golden boy of Judgment Day, the man who's been running his mouth for months, is now lying in a hospital bed, and the footage of Liv Morgan completely breaking down backstage has WWE officials scrambling to control the narrative. But here's what they don't want you to know, this isn't just another wrestling injury. This is the moment that could destroy everything Triple H has been building, and the way WWE is handling this situation is absolutely disgusting. Stick around because the details I'm about to reveal will make your blood boil, and you'll understand why Liv Morgan's tears might be the least of WWE's problems right now. Monday Night Raw was supposed to be just another episode. Dominik Mysterio strutted to that ring with his usual arrogant swagger, believing he was untouchable under the protection of Judgment Day. The crowd was booing him mercilessly, but that's nothing new for Dirty Dom. What happened next, however, was something no one saw coming. During what should have been a routine match against Ricochet, Dominik attempted his signature move when disaster struck. The sound that echoed through the arena wasn't the usual impact of bodies hitting the mat, it was something far more sinister. A sickening crack that made even the hardest wrestling fans in attendance go completely silent. Dominik hit the canvas and didn't get up. For a moment, everyone thought it was just another one of his dramatic selling jobs. We've all seen Dominik milk injuries before, rolling around like he'd been shot when someone barely touched him. But this time was different. This time, the referee immediately threw up the X signal, and the entire atmosphere in the arena shifted from entertainment to genuine concern. The WWE medical team rushed to the ring faster than we've ever seen them move. Even veteran wrestler and backstage producer Adam Pearce was sprinting down the ramp, something that never happens unless the situation is legitimately serious. The cameras immediately cut away, but not before capturing Dominik's face contorted in agony, and the way his leg was positioned in a way that legs simply should not bend. What the cameras didn't show you, what WWE desperately tried to keep hidden, was the absolute pandemonium happening backstage. Multiple sources inside the WWE production team have confirmed that the backstage area erupted into chaos the moment word spread about Dominik's condition. But here's where this story takes a turn that will absolutely infuriate you. While WWE officials were scrambling to manage the situation, trying to figure out how to handle the injury of one of their most prominent young stars. Liv Morgan was having a complete emotional breakdown in the women's locker room area. Witnesses describe Liv as being inconsolable when she received the news about Dominik's injury. She was reportedly crying so hard that she could barely stand, and had to be physically supported by other female wrestlers backstage. WWE officials immediately tried to keep this quiet, but several wrestlers and backstage personnel witnessed Liv's raw, emotional reaction. What makes this even more shocking is the timing. Remember, Liv Morgan and Dominik have been involved in one of the most controversial storylines in recent WWE history. Their on-screen chemistry has been undeniable, and there have been persistent rumors about their relationship extending beyond what we see on television. Liv's emotional response to Dominik's injury suggests there might be much more to their connection than WWE wants us to believe. Here's where WWE's handling of this situation becomes absolutely infuriating. Instead of being transparent with the fans who support these wrestlers week after week, WWE immediately went into damage control mode. They pulled Liv Morgan from all scheduled media appearances for the rest of the week. They canceled her planned interview segments. They even removed her from promotional materials for upcoming events. Why would WWE go to such extreme lengths to hide Liv's reaction unless there was something significant they were trying to protect? The company that usually capitalizes on every emotional moment, every real-life drama, every opportunity to blur the lines between reality and fiction, suddenly wanted to keep this completely under wraps. Multiple backstage sources have confirmed that Stephanie McMahon herself was involved in conference calls throughout the night, discussing how to manage the narrative around both Dominik's injury and Liv's reaction. When was the last time you saw WWE put this much effort into keeping a storyline quiet? Never, because this isn't just a storyline anymore. The situation at the hospital where Dominik was taken reveals even more disturbing details about how WWE operates behind the scenes. Dominik was rushed to a local medical facility, accompanied by WWE's medical team and several company officials. But here's what will make you absolutely furious: WWE initially tried to prevent Liv Morgan from going to the hospital. Think about that for a moment. If this was just a professional relationship, if Liv and Dominik were just co-workers playing characters on television, why would WWE care whether she visited him in the hospital? The fact that there was apparently a heated discussion about whether Liv should be allowed to see Dominik tells us everything we need to know about the real nature of their relationship. Eventually, after what sources describe as intense negotiations with WWE management, Liv was permitted to visit the hospital, but only with a WWE official present at all times. She was also required to sign additional confidentiality agreements beyond her standard WWE contract. What could possibly be so sensitive that WWE would require extra legal protection? When Liv finally arrived at the hospital, witnesses describe her as being barely composed. She had clearly been crying for hours, and her emotional state was so fragile that hospital staff expressed concern about her well-being. This isn't the reaction of a casual coworker, this is the response of someone who has deep, genuine feelings for the person who was injured. Let's talk about what WWE doesn't want you to know about Dominik's actual condition. While the company has been deliberately vague about the nature and severity of his injury, medical sources familiar with the situation have provided some disturbing details. The injury occurred to Dominik's knee and lower leg area, and initial assessments suggest significant ligament damage. We're not talking about a minor sprain that will sideline him for a few weeks. This is potentially a career-altering injury that could require multiple surgeries and months of rehabilitation. What makes this even more tragic is that Dominik is only 27 years old. He should be entering the prime of his wrestling career, building on the momentum he's gained over the past few years. Instead, he's facing the possibility that he might never wrestle at the same level again, or potentially never wrestle at all. The fact that WWE immediately brought in their top orthopedic specialists and began consultations with renowned sports medicine experts tells us that even the company recognizes the severity of this situation. These aren't the actions of a company dealing with a minor injury that will heal in a few weeks. Dominik's injury has created massive problems for one of WWE's most successful factions. Judgment Day has been carrying Monday Night Raw programming for months, and Dominik's role as the group's most hated member has been crucial to their storylines. Without him, the entire dynamic of the faction changes dramatically. Rhea Ripley, who has been positioned as Dominik's on-screen protector and mentor, is reportedly devastated by the injury. Sources indicate that Rhea has been pushing WWE management to allow more transparency about Dominik's condition and to provide fans with regular updates about his recovery progress. Finn Balor and Damian Priest are also dealing with the uncertainty of how this injury will affect their own storylines and championship pursuits. The tag team division booking that revolved around Judgment Day's involvement now needs to be completely restructured, creating headaches for WWE's writing team that extend far beyond just replacing one wrestler. But the most significant impact might be on Liv Morgan's career trajectory. Her entire character development over the past several months has been intertwined with her relationship with Dominik. Without him, WWE faces the challenge of either dramatically rewriting her character or potentially derailing one of their most compelling female performers. Perhaps the most telling aspect of this entire situation has been the complete social media silence from both Dominik and Liv Morgan. In an era where WWE wrestlers are expected to maintain constant social media presence, the absolute radio silence from both parties speaks volumes. Dominik, who regularly posts multiple times per day across all platforms, hasn't shared anything since before his injury. His last post was a typical pre-match hype video, completely unaware that his wrestling career was about to take a potentially devastating turn. The absence of any updates, even basic acknowledgments of fan support, suggests that his condition might be even more serious than WWE is letting on. Liv's social media silence is equally concerning. She's known for her active engagement with fans, her behind-the-scenes content, and her promotional work for WWE. The fact that she's gone completely dark suggests that WWE has specifically instructed her to maintain silence while they figure out how to handle the situation. This level of social media control is unprecedented in modern WWE. Even during legitimate injuries and personal crises, wrestlers are usually encouraged to thank fans for their support and provide basic updates about their recovery. The complete blackout from both Dominik and Liv indicates that WWE is treating this as a crisis that requires extreme damage control measures. What WWE definitely doesn't want discussed publicly are the massive financial implications of Dominik's injury. As a second-generation wrestler with significant name recognition and merchandising value, Dominik represents a substantial investment for the company. His injury could cost WWE millions in lost revenue from merchandise sales, live event appearances, and streaming content. More importantly, Dominik was being positioned as a long-term main event talent. WWE had invested heavily in his character development, his training, and his integration into major storylines. Losing him for an extended period, or permanently, represents a massive disruption to WWE's long-term business planning. The insurance claims alone could be staggering. WWE maintains comprehensive insurance policies for their performers, but the process of filing claims and receiving compensation can take months or even years. In the meantime, the company has to absorb the full financial impact of losing one of their most valuable young stars. There are also contractual complications that WWE is desperately trying to keep quiet. Dominik's contract includes performance bonuses, merchandise percentages, and appearance requirements that all become complicated when a wrestler is unable to perform due to injury. The legal and financial negotiations happening behind the scenes are reportedly intense and contentious. The impact of Dominik's injury extends far beyond just Judgment Day storylines. WWE's entire programming structure for the next several months has been thrown into chaos, requiring massive rewrites and restructuring of planned storylines. WrestleMania season is approaching, and Dominik was positioned to play a significant role in several major storylines. Without him, WWE has to completely reimagine their biggest event of the year, potentially disappointing fans who were invested in seeing those storylines play out. The women's division is also affected because Liv Morgan's character development was so closely tied to her relationship with Dominik. WWE now faces the challenge of either creating entirely new storylines for one of their most popular female wrestlers or trying to continue her current character arc without the person who made it compelling. Live events and house shows are experiencing immediate impacts as well. Judgment Day was one of WWE's most reliable draws for live audiences, and losing Dominik significantly diminishes their ability to sell tickets and create compelling live experiences for fans. The international touring schedule is also affected. WWE had planned to feature Judgment Day prominently in their upcoming international tours, and Dominik's appeal to Latino audiences made him particularly valuable for events in Mexico and South America. Without him, WWE has to reconsider their entire international marketing strategy. This injury has exposed some uncomfortable truths about WWE's medical protocols and how the company handles legitimate injuries versus worked storylines. The confusion and chaos that followed Dominik's injury suggests that WWE's medical team may not be as prepared for genuine emergencies as they claim to be. Multiple sources have indicated that there was significant confusion about proper procedures in the immediate aftermath of the injury. While WWE has extensive protocols for worked injuries and storyline medical angles, their response to a legitimate medical emergency revealed gaps in their preparation and training. The decision-making process about whether to continue the show, how to handle the live audience, and what information to share with fans all seemed improvised rather than following established procedures. This raises serious questions about WWE's preparedness for handling similar situations in the future. The way medical information has been controlled and limited also raises ethical questions about WWE's responsibilities to their performers and their fans. While privacy concerns are legitimate, the level of secrecy surrounding Dominik's condition seems excessive and potentially harmful to everyone involved. The wrestling community's reaction to Dominik's injury and Liv's emotional response has been overwhelmingly supportive, but it's also revealed some harsh realities about how fans perceive WWE's handling of real-life crises versus manufactured drama. Many longtime wrestling fans have expressed frustration with WWE's lack of transparency, pointing out that the company regularly exploits real-life situations for storyline purposes but becomes extremely secretive when dealing with genuine emergencies that they can't control or monetize. Other wrestling promotions and industry figures have been notably quiet about the situation, which is unusual given the wrestling community's typical response to serious injuries. This silence suggests that there may be industry-wide concerns about how this situation is being handled and what it reveals about professional wrestling's approach to performer safety and welfare. Social media has been flooded with fan theories and speculation about the real relationship between Dominik and Liv, with many pointing to her emotional response as confirmation that their connection extends beyond professional wrestling storylines. WWE's attempts to control the narrative have largely backfired, creating more curiosity and speculation than transparency might have generated. As we look toward the future, the long-term consequences of this situation extend far beyond just one injured wrestler. This incident has exposed fundamental problems with how WWE handles real crises versus manufactured ones, and the fallout could affect the company's operations for years to come. The relationship between wrestlers and management, the boundaries between personal and professional lives, and the level of transparency that fans can expect from WWE are all being called into question. The way this situation has been handled sets precedents that will influence how similar situations are managed in the future. For Dominik personally, even if he makes a full recovery, this injury will likely change his career trajectory permanently. The physical recovery is only part of the challenge. Rebuilding his confidence, regaining his athletic abilities, and re-establishing his character will all require significant time and effort. Liv Morgan's career is also at a crossroads. Her emotional response to Dominik's injury has revealed depths to her character that WWE may or may not choose to explore. The company's decision about how to handle her moving forward will significantly impact her future opportunities and storyline possibilities. The Judgment Day faction may never fully recover from losing Dominik during such a crucial period in their development. While other wrestlers can fill his role mechanically, the specific chemistry and dynamics that made the group successful cannot be easily replicated. This incident represents a turning point in how professional wrestling deals with the intersection of real life and storylines. The traditional boundaries between worked and legitimate situations have become increasingly blurred, and this situation highlights the complications that arise when those boundaries break down completely. WWE's handling of this crisis will likely influence industry standards for dealing with similar situations in the future. Other promotions are watching closely to see what works, what doesn't, and what legal and ethical obligations companies have when dealing with genuine emergencies involving their performers. The medical protocols and safety standards that this incident has called into question will likely lead to industry-wide reviews and potentially significant changes in how wrestling companies prepare for and respond to legitimate injuries during live events. Most importantly, this situation has demonstrated that wrestling fans are more sophisticated and emotionally invested than companies sometimes give them credit for. The passionate response to both Dominik's injury and Liv's emotional reaction shows that fans can distinguish between manufactured drama and genuine human emotion, and they respond differently to each. The hospitalization of Dominik Mysterio and Liv Morgan's emotional breakdown have revealed uncomfortable truths about how WWE operates behind the scenes. The company's extreme efforts to control the narrative, limit information, and manage every aspect of the situation suggest that there are significant issues they're trying to keep hidden from public view. Whether it's the real nature of Dominik and Liv's relationship, the severity of his injury, the financial implications for WWE, or simply the company's unpreparedness for handling genuine crises, this situation has exposed vulnerabilities that WWE would prefer to keep private. What's most disturbing is how the company has prioritized damage control over transparency, treating their fans like adversaries to be managed rather than supporters who deserve honest information about the performers they invest in emotionally and financially. As this situation continues to develop, one thing is certain: the wrestling world will never look at Dominik Mysterio, Liv Morgan, or WWE's crisis management the same way again. The tears Liv shed backstage weren't just about one injured wrestler. They represented the human cost of an industry that too often forgets that behind every character is a real person with real emotions and real relationships. The question now is whether WWE will learn from this situation and become more transparent and human in their approach, or whether they'll double down on secrecy and control. Based on their handling of this crisis so far, the answer to that question should terrify every wrestling fan who cares about the real people behind the characters they love to watch. What do you think about WWE's handling of this situation? Are you as outraged as I am by their lack of transparency? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more breaking wrestling news that WWE doesn't want you to know. If you thought tonight's story was wild, trust me, what happens next will blow your mind. So don't stop now. Click on the video right here on your screen to continue the chaos, the drama, and the inside scoop only we deliver. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and join the WrestlingNewsCC family, where the real stories of WWE come to life. See you in the next one.